And welcome to our extended live coverage of Jennifer Crumbley on trial. You are looking live inside the Circuit Courthouse right now, where you see the attorneys from both sides, from the defense and the prosecution, are sitting inside the courtroom. The jury has this case as of about 9:45 this morning. After the judge gave jury instructions and sent them on their way, they have been deliberating in this manslaughter case. But we want to make sure that you are kept updated on what has been going on inside the courtroom right now. So good afternoon to you. I'm Christy McDonald, coming to you from the Local 4 newsroom, and we've been with you all along in covering this really historic trial. So this morning, the case finally went to the jury. Of course, closing arguments happened on Friday afternoon, and then said the jury will go home for the weekend and then come on back on Monday morning. And that's when Judge Cheryl Matthews this morning then gave instructions. Important to... Okay, so you know what? Jennifer Crumbley coming back into the courtroom, that's obviously some kind of movement here. We're going to go ahead and stay with you as we listen in. We have not received word that the jury either has any questions or they've come to any kind of verdict yet. But again, anytime when you have all of the players inside the courtroom, it signals some kind of movement here. So you are looking at Jennifer Crumbley, who was in there this morning in the courtroom when the jury was given their instructions. And just to remind you, as part of the jury instructions and deliberation, there were 17 jurors that were picked for this trial, and 5 of them will be alternates, but they did not know who would be alternates until today. And it was this morning that the judge, after she gave all of the instructions, then pulled 5 numbers out of a hat. And so out of a box. And so that signified which jurors would be alternates. Those jurors then were put into another room, and the 12 that would be the jury was sent on their way to deliberations. And again, when you go over the instructions for the jury, the judge came out and said, look, this has been an emotional and has been a stressful event for everyone. So let's go ahead and take a look. Hopefully our camera is going to zoom back. We now have audio, and here's the judge. Let's go ahead and listen to see what's happening.
Crumbley back up, House 5. Jury question. Okay.
Um, 20.30A, which clearly articulates that. So I think that's why it wasn't just a yes or no response, because I think this instruction, 20.30A, is right on point to the question.
Okay, so can I answer the first question, yes?
Yes, Judge.
And then say, please refer to 20.30A unanimity.
Yes, Judge.
Your Honor, I'm not sure. I'm trying to find 20.30A.
It's right between 16.13 and 16.10. It's the one that talks about alternative theories.
Okay, we'll just sit there.
It's a non-standard because it's adapted from a civil jury instruction.
I'm sorry,
20.30A, it's a non-standard jury instruction. Both sides agree to it. It's a unanimity instruction.
sorry, Judge, I'm trying to find. Okay. Okay, I believe the court is correct. However, the way I read the question is that the jury is confused, obviously, about there being two ways to prove the charge. When they ask about one instruction supporting another, I believe that they should reread 20.30A, and then the one theory of the prosecution is 16.13, which describes the legal duty. I believe the second theory by the prosecution is 16.10, which describes the theory. Okay, but I think what supports 16.10 is the definition in 16.18. So when this jury is asking for a question about support, I believe the confusion lies in the fact that
They didn't ask me that.
well, when they say, I don't see how 20.3A clears up the question they're asking. I believe the jury needs to be instructed to read 20.3A, and then they need to consider 16.13 or 16.10, and in doing 16.10, understand the definition of gross negligence is in 16.18. That's what the defense believes.
They didn't ask that, Judge, and it's not up to us to guess what they're thinking or not. The answer to the question, the first question is clearly yes, and 20.30A is clearly on point, so.
Yeah, the answer is yes. And then I'm going to say, please refer to 20.30A. Right unanimity. And I'm also going to say, please consider all instructions as a whole.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, I'm going to send this note in. All right,
Thank you, Judge.
thank you.
All right.
All right, you are watching now as Jennifer Crumbley is leaving the courtroom. Let me go ahead and get you caught up and try to break down what just happened here in the courtroom. So the jury has been deliberating for just under 3 hours right now, and they've asked their first question of the court. And what they're asking about is they're asking, are there two different ways that we can conclude involuntary manslaughter in the case? And they were going through the jury instructions that were given to them this morning by the judge. And so what the judge said in those instructions is, she says that the prosecution has two theories. One, that Jennifer Crumbley failed to perform her duty as a parent and exercise reasonable care for her son, okay? Or two, do you find her grossly negligent, that she had a failure to act, that it was her actions or inactions that led to this event? So those are the two parameters that the prosecution has put forth. And in the jury instructions, Judge Cheryl Matthews says either of these could produce enough for involuntary manslaughter. So that's what the jury was trying to clarify. So when a jury asks a question like that and the judge has to bring it to the attorneys and then they both agree on how that question should be answered, they have to agree on that. And so the court agreed that the answer to the question of are there two different ways that we can conclude involuntary manslaughter? And the answer to that question, according to the judge, is yes. So anytime that they come back on the record like that, they have to make sure that Jennifer Crumbley is in the courtroom. So she is able to hear that and able to be part of her own defense, even as they are at the point now of jury deliberation. So let's go ahead and talk about those instructions that the judge gave to the jury earlier this morning. And again, it's very, very specific and reminding them that they have to take the witness statements into account here. It's not the attorney's questions that are evidence. It's not the opening statements or the closing arguments. Those things aren't evidence. It's the exhibits that have been put into evidence, and it's also the witness testimony. And this is where the jury has to figure out who they believe in this case.